Welcome, future certified functional strength coaches. My name is Brendan Rarick, and today I'll be presenting to you on our regression and progression system that we use here at MBSC. A little bit about me. I've been here 4 years now, and I have multiple groups that I coach and my own personal training clients. I also do the programming, and I work with all the interns here. And I created this system or regression progression sheet a few years ago to help us get all the interns up to speed and make sure the entire staff is on the same page. So I've named this presentation Building an Adaptable Training Model. It's not the strongest of the species that survives, but the one most adaptable to change, Charles Darwin. So when I think of the best coaches in the industry, I think of coaches that can adapt to whatever situation they're in. For example, athlete comes in and he had a tournament, played games the entire weekend, or he has some sort of quad injury. That coach almost invariably knows what to do and where to go next. A real life example might be Coach Belichick of the New England Patriots. He's been named the best coach, one of the best coaches in the NFL multiple times. And it's usually because of his in-game adjustments or his ability to adapt to what the other team's doing to the Patriots in that game. So here's the challenge. The challenge is going to be is this regression progression sheet is going to be provided for you. And the challenge is for you to go through it, learn it, use it, and then add to it. Because we all have different situations, we train different groups of people, we have different gym setups, different logistics at every one of our gyms. So the idea is for you to take this sheet that's already been done for you and to add to it. So why does this matter? Why do we waste our time, or not waste our time, but why do we spend so much time talking regressions, progressions? It is because we care. We care what type of training people get. We care that they get results. And having a system in place like this ensures all those things happen. And the best way to think about this is by me using an example of one of my groups. So this is my 6:45 Monday, Wednesday night adult group. And here's a list of people that are in it. So we have Brendan, who's 48 years old, and he works 12 hours a day. And he's an ex-rugby player. So I spend most of my time keeping him from hurting himself. Jen is 46, and she literally can't use her arms for anything. So we have to do a ton of body weight stuff, a ton of things with weighted vest, and coming up with things that don't hurt. Artie has bad knees, a bad left shoulder, and a bad neck, and he's a tennis pro. Go figure. Kurt has a bad back, and his wife is in a wheelchair. So if I get Kurt hurt and hurt his back during the workout, he can't go home and help his wife get into bed, go to the bathroom, and then he's got to hire somebody, and he's out for work for an entire week. So I have to be really careful with that situation. And then we have 5 more people, and as you can see, everyone has something going on. I do not have anyone that I train that doesn't have some sort of previous injury, current injury, movement problem, or movement dysfunction. So this is real life training right here. And all these people get the same exact program. And people would say, oh, that's cookie cutter, or I've heard people say Boyles is cookie cutter. Well, I would agree with you if we gave everyone the same program and we didn't do anything after that and we let them go on their way and kind of, good luck. I hope you can do all this stuff. We definitely do not do that here, and that's what we use the regression progression sheet for. So our program is our checklist. Great book here, Checklist Manifesto. The premise of the entire book is that in hospitals, they introduced a checklist, and this checklist had 10 things on it. For example, very, very simple things like, does the doctor know all the nurses' names? Did everyone wash their hands? Are all the tools clean? Etc. And I believe after implementing this checklist in 8 hospitals, deaths by infection fell 47%. And this was in 2008. So this wasn't like in 1900, this wasn't 100 years ago. This was very recent. So that's how I like to think about programming. If we make the program our checklist, so if yes, you get to move on to your next progression. If no, you have to either stay there in that phase or at that exercise, or you have to find a way to make it easier. So that's how we get an increase in our results and a decrease in performance injuries. Don't reinvent the wheel, perfect it. So this progression sheet, I've literally just taken Coach Boyle's 33 years of experience, and I've put it on a sheet of paper. So like I said, the challenge is not to rearrange it or to create your own, it's to add to it and make it better and make it fit what you do at your gym. So regressing and progressing, AKA how do I make something wicked hard or wicked easy? Welcome to Boston. Okay, so this is the one you get in your textbooks at school. This is what everyone first learns when they're writing their own programs, or you're in high school and you're writing programs for somebody else. It's you either increase the volume, so you increase reps, sets, or the number of exercises that you're doing. You can increase the intensity, so how much weight you're using or how fast or at the speed at which you perform that exercise at. And you can increase frequency or duration, so how long you work out for or how many days a week that you work out. So that's 3 pretty common ways that everyone knows how to make something easier or harder. So as an industry, this is where I think we're still missing the boat. There are 1, posture, 2, load positioning, and 3, using different implements or pieces of equipment to make something easier or harder. So, number 1, posture. So, first thing, if you want to make something easier or harder, you decrease or you increase your base of support. So if I'm laying on the ground on my back or on my stomach, I have the entire ground supporting me. So gravity is acting much less on my spine. Quadruped, if I come to a quadruped position, I have 6 points of stability, and I have gravity only really acting on my hips and my spine and my shoulders here, but I have 6 points of contact. Then I can go tall kneeling, so now I have 4 points of contact, and now my spine is vertical, so I have gravity working on me that way. Then I go to inline position, 3 points of stability, and now I have a balance component along with the vertical gravity component. And then I have a lunge position where my knee is 1 inch off the ground. So now I have 2 points of stability, and this is getting much harder. And then I have standing static. So if I'm just here in a standing position, and then I have standing dynamic. So I'm standing, but I'm moving in all different planes. And then I have single leg stance. So now I have gravity acting on my entire body, and I also have a balance component. So easiest to hardest. And then I just took one of our exercises as an example. So we have supine anti-rotation. So you can do anti-rotation exercises laying on your back. So I have a wide base of support. That makes it much easier. Tall kneeling anti-rotation, I have 4 points of stability. Inline lunge, now we're adding a balance component. ISO lunge, so now I have 2 points of stability, getting even harder. Standing anti-rotation, I have all of gravity acting on my joints. And single leg anti-rotation, the hardest version of this exercise. So we have posture, number 1. Number 2, we have load positioning. So assisted, so any sort of resistance that helps assist the exercise. So for example, if I'm squatting and I have a band, I squat down, the band helps me get back up. Then we have body weight, so body weight squat. Counterbalance, I can use a med ball, squat down and press out, which helps me get my hips a little bit lower into the squat. Goblet position, rack position in the picture you see here. You can do an overhead squat, you can do a unilateral squat, and you can do a spinal load. So back squat. We don't back squat here, as you know,
but that's up to you. That's your choice. And if you're gonna back squat, please make a regression and progression sheet, or a regression, find your regressions and progressions for that exercise, because it's very demanding. So here's an example. So assisted, we have skater squats. So Kevin here is using the TRX to help him with the skater squat pattern. Body weight, ring push-ups. I love using the rings for all sorts of things. Plus, I wanted to make sure everyone knew that I can actually do this stuff. It's pretty good form right there. Solid, very solid. All right, counterbalance. So when we do our counterbalance, or when we do our single leg squats, we use a counterbalance to help sit back into that squat. I got a band here on her knee using some reactive neuromuscular training to help her keep that knee out so it doesn't cave in. Goblet squat. And then we have kettlebell rack position. That's 224 kg kettlebells, just so you all know how strong I am. And putting things in goblet position like that can almost make people squat better. For people that have trouble squatting body weight, actually putting a load that tilts them anteriorly forward actually can clean up that pattern. And I squat, personally, I squat a lot better with weight than I do body weight. And a unilateral load, so opposite side, while I do reverse lunges on one side. An overhead carry, love overhead carries, especially for the low trap. Shoulder stabilization. And then back squat. This is my friend Phil. He's 171 pounds. This is 355 for 8. So he has the requisite ankle mobility, knee mobility, hip mobility, spinal stability and mobility, and glenohumeral external rotation. You need all 5 or 6 of those things in order to back squat like that. And if you're not back squat, if your back squats don't look like that, you probably shouldn't be back squatting. And that's strong. And then I have a little video of what back squats usually look like, especially in high school. Spotters also usually look like that. Wait for it. Nice, nice. 315. All right, so one of the many reasons why we don't do back squat here. All right, implements. So there's all different types of things you can use at the gym. Luckily here at MBSC, we have access to every single toy you could possibly think of. So that's why our regression progression sheet shows that. If you only have dumbbells and weighted vests, then your regression progression sheet has to be a little bit different. So for example, you can squat with all these things. You can squat with kettlebells, dumbbells, barbells, vests, sandbags, bands, plates, med balls, pulleys, TRX. So, and you can do that with push-ups. You can do that, whatever exercise you want to think of. You can use these things. So for example, I love doing sandbag squats, because when you hug a sandbag, it actually makes the squat look even better than it would if they were goblet squatting. Because for some reason, the bear hug position turns on all your lats, turns on your core, and you don't have to coach anything. You just have to tell them to hug that sandbag as hard as possible. So a sandbag squat's a pretty good regression for somebody who can't do a regular body weight or goblet squat. That's just an example. And like I said, it's up to you guys to come up with all your own examples and regressions and progressions, or add to ours. So we had those 3 things. We have posture, load position, and using different pieces of equipment or implements to make something easier or harder. So how do we set up our system here at MBSC? Well, first, before you start looking at the sheet, let's break down an exercise. Rear foot elevated split squat. Okay, where do I start? So for us, where we start, and your starting baseline exercise is going to be in bold. Where we start is I use the 80-20 principle. So I kind of make a judgment based off of watching thousands and thousands of workouts that 80% of the people who walk in through our doors will be able to start with this version of the exercise, and 20% of those people will have to start with something easier. So for example, in the summertime, we have 400 people that work out here in the summer.
I'm guessing that 400 of them or 450 of them can start with this exercise, and that 100 or 50 of them are going to have to start with something easier, okay? So a little note on this, if we were able to FMS everybody, then you know where your baseline is. So we do not, like I said, we have 400 to 500 people that work out here in the summer. We do not have the luxury of screening everyone or of FMSing everyone. If we did, we wouldn't have to start with baseline. We could just have regressions and progressions. But for the purpose of this sheet and for making it easier for everyone to train, we have a baseline. And baseline for our RFE is the eccentric RFE. So everyone who comes in that's going to be working out is going to start with an eccentric RFE, and if it's too hard, we make it easier, and if it's fairly easy, we add weight to it or we increase the intensity. So baseline, eccentric RFE, and then on the sheet, it'll be in bold. Everything above that on the sheet will be a regression. Everything below that will be a progression. So we have baseline, eccentric RFE. You want to make eccentric RFE harder, we go to split squat. If you can't split squat, you go to split squat hold. If you can't split squat hold, we go to an assisted split squat using a band, a Kaiser, or a TRX. Progressions, remember we have baseline, so everyone's starting here. We want to make it harder, we go to goblet RFE. If we want to make it harder, we go to 2 dumbbell RFE. If we want to make that harder, we go 2 dumbbells with weighted vests. And then we go to a U-bar. So we just got U-bars. We'll probably actually start using those next week here in our summer phase. It's kind of like half a trap bar, and it allows you to load up the bar pretty heavy. We got rid of the spinal loading RFE because it's scary to watch somebody with 225 pounds try to reach their leg back and put their foot up on a bench or on a pad. And we have people that can 2 dumbbell RFE with 2 40-pound vests with the 120s in their hands. So if you get to that point, you're probably already strong enough. And then we're just trying to keep you from hurting yourself. So how it breaks down. So on the sheet, when you get it, what you'll see is baseline is in bold, eccentric. Regressions are below it. Regressions are above, split squat hold, and then regressions are below. So we have an assisted split squat. This is Neil. He'll never probably get past doing this version of the split squat, and that's perfectly fine because that works for him, and he's still getting the pattern. Next, we have split squat hold. This one's really tough if you've never done it before. I suggest or recommend you try it before you give it to people because it burns. Here's a moving split squat, so now we're dynamically moving through the pattern. Eccentric RFE, so this is where I said most people get to start, and those of you who, or those clients who can't do this, have to go to one of those 3 that were just before it. Then we have goblet RFE. Two kettlebell RFEs. So this is Megan Duggan of the USA Hockey Girls. That's 160 pounds by 10 reps. Just so you know how strong females can get at this exercise, along with males. That's strong. So then now we have Ben Bruno, who is a freak on a single leg. That's 2 dumbbells with weighted vests. That's 305 pounds of external load for 6 reps on each leg. So that should give you some idea of how strong somebody can actually get before you even need to think about putting a bar on their back. And then this is U-bar, that's 405. Just kidding, it's not 405, that's 95. But the U-bar works pretty well for this exercise if you have it available. If not, I would just keep loading up the dumbbells with the vests. All right, so just to give you another example, chop and lift. So baseline for us. Everyone who starts, comes in, does a half kneeling, inline, chop, and lift. If you can't do that, you go tall kneeling, and then you go rolling pattern progressions. Rolling pattern progressions are a whole nother talk. We can talk about it later. You can look that stuff up on your own. I suggest looking at, obviously, the SFMA stuff and Charlie Weingroff stuff, but that's a little bit beyond this talk. So baseline, you want to make it harder, you go isometric lunge. You want to make it harder, you go stable static chop and lift. If you want to make it even harder, you go dynamic chop and lift. And then I have a video of all these. So upper body rolling, good upper body rolling. It took me months to be able to do this. I've had back pain for a long time from sports and lifting, blah, 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 blah. So it took me a long time to be able to do this, but as you can see, there should be segmental rotation. My upper body does all the work, my lower body does nothing. So not so good upper body rolling. So if you can see, these are actually 3 of my clients. This is the first time we ever done this. They've all been training here for years. And as you can see, they compensate by kicking their legs. They try to throw their arm. It's very hard for them to segmentally move their upper body from their lower body. Just something to note, something to watch, something to learn. We had tall kneeling lift, and then we go to inline lunge lift. So this is a pretty good example. This is my morning group. So Chris has hip pain if he gets into the lunge position, so I have him just keep his knee down. And then my client Brad is perfectly fine with doing the isometric version. Then standing static. So I'm standing and I'm just moving only my arms and my upper body. Not too difficult. And then dynamic, a lot more moving parts, can be a little bit more difficult, which is why we have it last. We'll watch rolling again because everyone has questions about that. And just so you can see, so for example, if this is something I cannot do, then how can I swing correctly on a golf swing? Or am I losing power on my swing when I go to play baseball? Not saying that you can't do it, but are you leaving pounds on the bar or leaving pounds in your hit? All right, just so we can think about it from a movement perspective or a plyometric perspective, linear jumping example, box jumps is where everyone starts. If you can't box jump, we shuttle jump, which we have the luxury of having. If you don't have it, I would say you probably want to do depth jumps or landing practice or something else. Like I said, it's up to you to come up with your own. Box jumps, we go to hurdle jumps with a stick, hurdles with a double bounce in between, and then continuous hurdles. And I have a video of all those. So shuttle jump, Jim can't box jump because if he does, he always hurts his back. So shuttle jump is what he sticks to, and that's perfectly fine. And that's plyometric power for somebody who's in their 70s. This is my client Rob. He's in his late 50s. Box jump, that's as high as he needs to go. Just get some plyometrics in. And remember, power is the first thing that you lose as you age. Strength second. So hurdles with a stick, doesn't need to go any higher than that. That's pretty good. Hurdles with a double bounce. I use myself just so you know that I'm actually an athlete and I don't just stand here and look good. And then continuous. So no double bounce in between, stick the last one. Okay, so that's an example of a linear jump progression. All right, so the examples are done. Now, the way I use this regression sheet makes programming super simple. Keep it simple, stupid. And if you program like this, I promise your life will be 1,000 times easier. Number one thing, first thing you do is you put all your exercises into categories. So if you look at the sheet, I have an explosive lift category, vertical press, vertical pull, horizontal pull, anti-rotation, anti-flexion, knee dominant, hip dominant, and then I have corrective. Corrective's a poor word because it means so many things, but I feel like everyone in the industry probably understands that. So corrective for us is any type of stretch, mobility drill, activation, whatever that person needs to correct any other of these 9 patterns, okay? So corrective corrects one of these 9 things. Movements, not muscles. So now that you've put everything into categories, you can set up your template. So obviously in a 2-day template, which I'm going to show you, we want to get all of those 10 movements in 2 days. If I had a 4-day template, I would probably want to get all those movements in twice. If I have a 3-day template, I can probably decrease the number of exercises and get all 10 of my movements over 3 days. And a little side note, the way our workout is set up is because that's the population that we train, and it's how logistically our gym works. If you have people that are going to train with you for a whole year, you want to set up your program differently. You have people that are only training with you for 4 weeks, or I would set up your template differently. If you have people that are going to train with you 5-6 days a week, that's got to be set up differently. So have that in mind. This is day 1 and day 2 from our, I believe it's fall program, fall 2013. So set up your template. Okay, day 1, superset, first one, explosive with a squat corrective. Okay, superset number 2, a hip dominant bilateral with a vertical pull. And then quad set, we have horizontal row, knee dominant, unilateral, hip dominant bilateral, and then a corrective or a core exercise. Whatever you want to call it, doesn't matter to me. Just have a category for it. Then day 2, it should counteract, like I said, you want to get in all 10 of your movements. So explosive, corrective, knee dominant, bilateral, horizontal push, vertical push, hip dominant, anti-rotation, and then another corrective or core exercise. So as you can see, we get in all 10 movements. So day 1, I took what we had up there, and now you just plug and chug if you remember your algebra days in high school. First one, explosive, plug in clean. Second one, corrective, toe touch to squat, hip dominant bilateral trap bar, vertical pull chin-ups, horizontal row, dumbbell row, single leg squat, slide board leg curl, and half kneeling inline lift. Okay, so that's what day 1 looks like for us. Day 2, explosive, we'll do dumbbell snatch, bench T-spine stretch to go with that. Second superset, goblet squat with eccentric bench press. Then we have half kneeling alternating press, 1 dumbbell SLDL, tall kneeling anti-rotation, and a half kneeling inline chop. Okay, so just make sure you get all 10 movements in, and you can set up your template however works best for you or whatever situation you're in. Then all we do is we use our systems to create phases. So phase 1 is baseline, which is going to be half kneeling chop or lift, which means in order to move on, remember this is your checklist. If you can move on, you get to go to phase 2, check yes. Iso lunge chop and lift. Phase 3 is the stable static chop and lift. Phase 4 is dynamic chop and lift. So if you wanted to use your sheet to make your phases, you would say, for example, right now I'm looking at tall kneeling push-pull is in bold, and then the 3 exercises below it are phases 2, 3, and 4. And then you have 12 to 16 weeks of training right there. And you know, you could, like I said, this is up to you to make your own or add to it. You could add phase 5, could be a single leg chop and lift. Phase 6 could be a med ball throw chop and lift. Remember below this is tall kneeling, and then we have rolling pattern. So you could even start phase 1 rolling pattern, phase 2 tall kneeling, and then you have almost an entire year's worth of training with 8 phases in it. Okay, so that's entirely up to you. And then we always get the question, if you have somebody who comes in and they're starting phase 1 and half kneeling chop and lift is really easy, do you let them move on? No. So my whole theory is that if you build a bigger foundation, you can build a bigger house. So having kids that just finished phase 4 go back to doing phase 1 or starting at phase 1 even though they're already proficient at it is not a bad thing. It can only help them, like I said, build a bigger foundation, and then they can build a bigger house. Progressions are built into our program. Regressions are what you need to know to be an adaptable coach. So like I said, the best coaches, in my opinion, are the ones most adaptable to change. And also, now you've got a program and a progression sheet that are also adaptable to the athlete or client that you're training. So not only is the coach adaptable now, the program is also adaptable to that person, making your program even better, and you can get even better results. So we're back to the challenge. So memorize this, share this with your staff, or share this with your coworkers. Like I said, add to it. You can make, like I said, you can go 4 phases, you can make 8 phases. However hard you want to make it, it's up to you. Just understand the system before you start using it. So thank you, and good luck on your test.